Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry.
And we're back, fresh off the IRONMAN Frankfurt. Jackson just finished about 2 hours something ago. I don't know. It had to have been 2.5, 3 hours.
It was long enough. I don't know. It felt like a freaking eternity out there on the course. But funny enough, I was 1 minute slower than, I know. It's probably about 4 hours ago, but it's gone by like a trillion times quicker than the race.
Yeah.
Did.
Dude, I saw the start and I was like, that is like 5 people deep, maybe 6 people deep of that pro start.
The like lack of respect for the pros having a fair race is like absolutely insane when it comes to race starts. It would be so easy to just come up with an acceptable protocol for a beach start, acceptable protocol for in-water start, acceptable protocol for whatever, any type of start. No problem. Like every single race I've ever been to, I've been like, oh, this could be fixed. This could be fixed. But they just don't care. Like the race director decides. There's no, like, this is the one thing where, I mean, Ironman largely does a great job for the pros. In this regard, it's just completely disrespectful because how many people have had a horrible race because they've been clobbered at the start, hyperventilated, gone lactic, inhaled a bunch of water, and then that's their trip that they've spent money and time and energy to come have a race, and it's not really a fair way to start us. So that was ridiculous. I haven't talked to anyone who actually like had a totally horrible start and got their day ruined. So I think we got lucky. I think everyone was just like, well, we're not really going to be able to swim, so we'll just like kind of try to be gentle and not kill each other. And like, it was so bad that I don't think anyone aside from the first couple got a good start. So everyone was just like on top of each other for about 100 meters and not really clobbering each other too bad because we're just trying to get through it. Like,
is that like a new dynamic that we have to absolutely just start preparing for as pros? Like, we just know that we've got to legitimately fight for the first 500 meters and then see where you are. Like, and if you fought well and you were tactical and got lucky, then you're in a good spot.
No, I think, well, for the rest of this year, probably, but I think someone, and if I can find the time, put her together on a flight or something, I will, and I should. You just put together a very basic document that says, here is what we are willing to, what we are suggesting for the protocol for an acceptable professional race for the start. And the different scenarios of the different types of starts. And basically you just copy ITU, like however much space they have in their boxes, that's fine. They've obviously done it right. Just copy that. And then you just send it out to all the pros and say, are you willing to sign this that says that you agree that it's very reasonable to request this? The pro coordination needs to send this to the race director in advance of the race and say, you need to make this happen. It's not difficult. And we just all sign it and say, like, this is what we think is fair, and it's the least you could do to make things fair for us at the start. And I think they would do it. I think nobody's done anything. Like it's hard to like, because every time you do a race, you're just like, okay, I'm done. Now let's focus on the next one. And like, whatever happened, like, let's move past it. And it's really hard to like think that far in the future in terms of like, if I invest the time to make something happen for all the pros and for, making the races better, then, like how many times have I myself been like, oh, this didn't go right with this race, I'm going to email the race director and make it, a suggestion. And then I just don't, because like you get home, you're catching up on a million things, you're trying to get recovered, you're already behind. Like, it's just hard. And so it just needs to happen. And I think it's totally doable.
It's almost not even a race director thing. It has to come down in the planning of these events, because even at like 3 of the races that I've done this year, I've brought it up because we've had bigger start fields than ever. And during the race, they're like, oh yeah, or during the race pro briefing, they're like, we're going to have plenty of space. It's all right. And then we get there and it's really nothing's changed. Nobody has actually made an identified change to allow for, I mean, I don't really know the actual fix action, honestly, either, because you have 80 guys on the start list, like there's no way that there's not going to be some level of impediment for some athletes. And certainly it's tough to spread 80 out in a
I
square.
mean, you have a lake. You have a whole lake. This would have been so easy at this race. The beach was like hundreds of meters wide. You could have just said, okay, we're starting a little bit in front of that start chute. It's going to be an ankle deep start, and here's the buoy, and here's the buoy. They're 60 meters apart. That's 75, 3/4 of a meter per athlete. Everyone gets to start on the line. There's no reason for people to clobber each other. Done. Like it would literally, all it would take was 2 buoys that are like not even big. Well, it's a start. We're going to see them.
Well, even then, it's not even that complicated if they go into the planning phase for next year for every Pro Series race where the start lines like this. They're like, okay, we need to identify the first 2 buoys as a center point only for the start. So you got 30 on each side if we've got a 60-person field. And so the center of the field lines up in the center. The first 2 buoys are nullified. But then after that, then you have to stay to the right of those buoys after the fields are able to negotiate. So every course is different. I'm sure there's going to be some tactical ways to do it, but you're right. I think it's gotten pretty tough. I mean, I'm sure Trevor and Sam and those guys probably didn't have a successful swim start because even them, like they probably go out real hard and try, but they're always a little bit notoriously even more behind. So they're probably at a further disadvantage.
Yeah, like Sam started right beside me and we tried to like negotiate it the best we could. Sam's like, all right, I briefed to my left. Why don't you stay to my left? The guy to my right is really fast. He'll just take off and then we'll have space and we'll do our best. And like we did, but then just everyone, there's not enough room. And we end up like 50 meters in. I somehow was then to the right of him and he was to the left of me. Like we just had gotten all jumbled and beaten up and it's nobody's fault except for the organization. But yeah, you're right. You just need to say, look, we put we can think of all the scenarios. A lot of us pros have done enough races where it's like, look, we know how these races play out. And if you need to put it to an in-water start and it's 3.75K instead of 3.8, who cares? The bike courses are always 5K short. If you need to do that to make it a fair start for the pros, that's what you got to do. Like it's a different situation than the age group race. They start a few at a time. You can have a narrow start chute, no problem. Totally different for us.
What I've also noticed too is a bit of a commentary thing where any race I've seen, even this race, like Rennie was commentating and it was just brutal. Like you could just see it looked like an old school mass start where that's just the way it was. And now the commentators are even like, oh, this is Ironman. This is what it's all about. It's like they're relishing in the fact that it's just this way now. And I don't know if that's how the perception outside of the pro field is like, well, this is just how you start and you've got to negotiate it. And sometimes you get fucked and sometimes you do all right. And that's just the way it is. Like, it seems like that's kind of the opinion of people who are not directly racing.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably they know it's not good for us and they're just doing their best to come up with a good talking point. If we had a fair start, like like the World Triathlon races, they'd be like, all right, this is great. Everyone's starting and we're going to be able to identify who's starting fast and how this swim's unfolding and we can see all the caps and like it would be better for viewing because you can actually tell what's happening. So they'd be able to do even better. But yeah, I mean, I don't like it so much that they just like kind of glorify it, but at the same time, what's Ironman going to do? They're not going to like bash their own start, so I don't blame them. But I mean, honestly, I got through it fine. I couldn't swim very much for the first 50 meters, but then it wasn't a reason I got out so far behind. Honestly felt like I swam all right. Like in a best, I really think I could have and should have stayed in that Matt Hansen swim group, but just the gap opened up at the wrong spot.
Where did he go? What did that group end up swimming?
They got out with Patrick Lange. He was about a minute ahead of me, maybe a bit less. I was with them for the first mile or so, and then just before the Aussie exit, a gap opened up and they got some distance. I tried to close it, couldn't. And then another strong swimmer came by me and I got on his feet and he was swimming great, but he was taking terrible lines. So like we pretty much maintained the gap for a long time, but if we hadn't have swung to the right so much, we might have even closed it on them. But I mean, I couldn't even pull the gap back at all, so I can't really blame them. So I would say I could look, but I think I was right around a minute behind Matt. But then him and Bradley Weiss got a penalty, a 1 minute stand down, because you're supposed to have your bike belt on before you exited the change tent, and they had it like around them, and they were like fumbling with the clip, and it wasn't fully clipped when they exited the change tent, so they got a 1 minute stand down.
Whoa.
I mean, the rules here are the way that rules are enforced in this country and created where there doesn't need to be rules absolutely blows my mind.
Did they use
Crazy.
the German Triathlon Federation rules?
I think so. I don't know, but anyway, you have to wear the number on the bike, which is every European race, so fine. But just like weird to enforce that clip thing, but it kind of worked out for me because then they sort of started the bike with me then. So yeah, I mean, I was relatively positive about my swim. I'm like, all right, there's a group right here. I know Matt's there, Bradley's there. I struggled to get my feet in my shoes a little bit, but then I got going and I felt good, and I was just like riding. It was almost on easy mode. Like I was working hard, but any little bit of effort I put in, I just got speed out of it. Like I would just pass tons of dudes. As soon as I ramped it up to even like 300, I was just passing the whole group. So I just felt like I was ripping really well. It was raining. It wasn't not good visibility. So that was tough with the visor. Like I decided to keep it on and tilt it on the key areas to where I had to see, because I just think that visor is way faster than no visor. So yeah, I mean, I was really freaking slow on all the turns. Like I would lose time on turns. I was fine with that. I was like, I'm just keeping it safe. This is crazy conditions. And yeah, I caught a group ahead, that like the head group ahead of the Brad Weiss, Matt Hansen group, that pulled everyone to that group, got to the front of that group, went hard for a long time till the cobbles. Then I lost shitload of time in the cobbles. Like I went from first to like 12th in the group. So then I'm working hard and I was pushing 300 watts. Like guys just attack the technical anything around here, and then they get to a freaking highway and they push like 250 watts. It's a joke. Like it's so weird. Like they just try to absolutely minimize any type of energy expenditure on like a section where you can actually push power. So then I got back to the front of the group once we got onto the highway section, got back to the front, was working hard. I'm like, I'm just gonna push good power and drop as many dudes as I can, and then the strong guys will hang with me and we'll work together. And then I could see a group up ahead, and turns out that was the second group on the road. That was the well, maybe it was like third group, but the other two groups were way up the road, and it was like the Braden Curry group. And they were like, somebody gave me a split. They were 30 seconds ahead. It only took me like 7 or 8 minutes to catch them. Caught that group, sat at the back for like 1 minute, then went around, went to the front, working hard, like pushing 300. Like my average power was right close to 300, including a ton of turns and zeros. And I knew I was pushing more than what I would end up averaging, but I'm like, I can push 300 for the first lap. I just feel I know what I'm feeling. I can push 300 for the first lap and like 270, 280 for the second. Like I just could feel where the effort was. And I thought, I'll whittle it down to the strong guys only, and then we'll work together and we'll be just dandy, and we'll have like not a crazy gap to the front. And then there's this left turn after the highway section, and like I did the course and stuff, but there's like a left turn and the two lanes are separated. Like the oncoming lane and the lane we needed to turn into were separated by a boulevard, like a curb. And you just couldn't see the lane we needed to change into. It just looked like there was one lane, and then I'm like, oh, it's actually that lane. So I like corrected, but I slowed way down and I was going real slow, and I'm just like taking the gradual turn and the bike just freaking disappears from under me. Like
Yeah.
I went down freaking hard on the hip and ankle and side, and like it was just tough. Like it's crazy how one moment can just change so much. Like you chase this whole series and you need every race to be decent and you need to have consistency, and you spend so much fucking money trying to do this and taking a chance on yourself on a relatively last minute decision to do the series, to be fair. But then you go down and like my body just wasn't working. Like I couldn't pedal with my left side for like 5-6 minutes. I was only pushing with my right side, and like my heart rate's jacked. Like my body's in like panic mode. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like I can't pedal with my left side. There's too much damage. Like I didn't think anything was broken, but like the muscle damage was enough that like every pedal stroke was really painful.
Mm-hmm.
And like it wasn't just my hip, my back was hurting, like everything was hurting. And
It's
then
to your point right there, like even talking with Kirsten Casper, like at the Olympics, all those girls going down, like that is such a relative thing going around where with these big groups with so many depth of field is so high and everybody doing everything they can to make every race count. These little mistakes, man, you hate to see those just be so detrimental, but they happen more and more frequent, it seems like.
and there were guys who went down on straights. Like it's just when you haven't had rain for a while and then it's just really rainy and like there's tire residue, there's oil, like you just hit an unlucky spot on the road and like you never know what is going to happen. So like a ton of guys went down, but anyway, unfortunately it was like the worst timing because as I'm trying to like revive my body, it's like a 5% hill for whatever, a kilometer,
Yeah.
2 kilometers, and like you're just going nowhere if you have no power up a hill. Like if it was a flatter downhill, I wouldn't have lost that much. Like the whole group went by, like everyone gone 2 minutes ahead. And like if you're pedaling at 150 watts on the flats, you're not going that slow. You're going like 35K an hour.
Yeah.
And like, oh, maybe you lose a minute or 30 seconds and you can catch it. But by the time I got up the hill and like my body started working and I'm like, okay, I actually could race. Like I'm not going to be freaking killing it, but I could stay with the group. I could finish the bike and maybe come around for the run. By that time, the group's so long gone. And like, if I had what I had at the start of the race, like functioning body, my bike handlebars not turned 20 degrees to the side, I could have closed that gap, no problem. But I just didn't have, like, I couldn't, my left side still hurt to pedal. So like, I just automatically lost like 50 watts, 30 watts, and equipment wasn't working as well. And like, there's no way you can close it. So I was at the mercy of like what my physiology was now limited to, and
Where was
still
that
caught a
within
couple stragglers.
where was that within the total distance of the bike race?
It was right around 55K, which is a
Oh,
horrible feeling because I'm like,
so
dude, I got to ride 120 more K and run a marathon. And like, if there was not a pro series, there's zero chance I was continuing. I would have just been done. Like, I knew there's no chance for a top 10, but I thought, all right, if I can get in a decent group and maybe I'll feel okay on the run, maybe the damage is more, because it's always harder for me physically, like biomechanically on the, as long as I can get through the bike okay, like my back doesn't seize up and stuff, I can run okay. It's always the bike that limits my run. But if I can get through the bike and loosen up, maybe I can run okay. And like, even if I get down 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes down, that's still like a score that might be able to get me to a top 10 in the series. So I'm going to fucking try. And that was freaking horrible, man. The rest of the day was just so hard. Like another 6 hours after that was
yeah.
just absolutely excruciating. Like it just got worse and worse on the bike. Surprisingly, it took Sam Long about till 160K to catch me. I did have a group to like feed off of and try to go with, but like I was leaving huge gaps and every turn I was so freaking slow that I was most of the time I was like 50 meters off the back anyways. But anyway, got to the end of the bike and actually didn't have like that crazy of a deficit. I was like
No.
18 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Which is what like it's so frustrating because I know I was riding so well. I know I would have been within 10 minutes if I just stayed upright. Anyway, so ran horribly the first 2K. Like body was just not cooperating. Back, hip, ankle were real painful. And then that kind of all loosened up and felt pretty good for about 15K. Like I was just running what I was like, I'm going to run what I think I would run if I didn't crash, because I rode easier. I still took in nutrition. By the way, my dual BTA mount like broke during the race. Like it in the last 10K, it just like broke, and both my bottle cages worth over $100 each are gone. So that was whatever.
Was that
I mean, it
because
was
the
literally,
crash?
it could have been, it could have like weakened it, or just constant bumps and like flexing, because it's a metal BTA bracket, eventually metal fatigues over time. And it could have just hit its limit on stress and just broke. It weirdly broke at like a spot where it wasn't even that rough. So it must have just totally been weakened. So 2 gorilla cages gone. So that's great.
Well,
I mean,
real
like,
quick too, like I saw a picture of your bottle setup in the morning, like with all the bottles on there. It looked like there was 40 pounds worth of fluids up on that cockpit, man. That was insane.
yeah, it probably the weight eventually just fucking lost it. It has uh just like 2.25 liters, and then some gels, so probably like 2.5 liters.
Yeah, that was a hell of a of a cockpit.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's probably just too much for a bumpy course to have that much stress on it. But the actual like tall BTA tower from Fast TT and the actual bottle mount were fine. It was the mount where the bottle's attached to onto the tower, that's what broke.
Yeah.
Um,
Damn.
so it didn't really affect my race. It's just like, okay, insult to injury here. Now I don't even like. I just bought these fucking bottle cages, $110 each.
Yeah, I know.
And now, and you're adding up the cost in your head. You're like, of course, the most expensive race I go to all year, I lose tons of money on, but whatever.
I got
So it's
a couple of spare gorilla cages. I'll give them to you. Don't worry.
no, I'll need to buy more anyways. But anyway, so this is the Jackson Laundry bitch fest. But anyway, got to the other bike, just tried to freaking muster up something on the run, and just ran
You're-
well for 15K after the first 2K. And I was running like, I wasn't doing crazy. I was running like 350,
yeah.
355. Like
I
just,
woke up and I checked in. I was like, well, Jack's a bit further back than I know he wanted to be, so something must have happened. But honestly, like you were running well.
yeah, I was running great. And then like at 20K, just started feeling off. Like the hip flexors and the quads first started to just not have, like, they're just done. I think definitely the biomechanics on the bike pushed me into a more quad heavy position of pedaling. And I just like mashed the quads the whole bike. Didn't recruit the glutes because that was hurting the hips. So then the quads shut down. And then I realized I could still run kind of okay with like more of a shuffle. And I ran decent, like not decent, but like for the third lap, I was probably like, I could check, but it's probably like 420 to 430 per K. And I was like, okay, keep just chugging. You might still get a semi decent run out of this if you can maybe rally on lap 4. And like, I'm doing the math in my head. I heard that I was like around 19 minutes back to start the run. And I'm like, okay, like they're going to run fast. If I can run like, that's the start. I'm like, maybe around 245 to 248 and have an okay day. And then it's like, okay, well, even if I run 255, I'll still get enough points that it's worth more than a 70.3. And maybe I can still come 10th if like in the series, if, if other people, whatever, if people just don't put together 5 good days. And then it becomes like, well, like if I break 3 hours, maybe at least I'll get more than like my third best score of a 70.3 or something. I might as well just keep. And then like on lap 4, it was like that I could not pick up my feet. Like my hip flexors were done, my quads were done. I could still drive with the glutes and the hamstrings, but there was nothing to like get the leg to the front of the freaking stride. So there was no stride. It was like power walking basically. It
Yeah.
was like almost dragging my heels, and I couldn't, my stride, the only way to get anything sort of like running was to like have a crazy high cadence and just have the shortest stride ever. And it was just brutal, man. Like the musculature just totally shut down. My back, my hip, my ankle, everything was hurting. And I was like, this is what happens when you crash and you ride 3 hours on like a broken body that it's not functioning properly.
Well,
So
and it's still remarkable that you pushed through all that. I mean, that same at the 30K mark at Roth, that's my quad stopped working. My IT vans were like needles every time I launched. And it's just amazing you can still push yourself even though you're in so much excruciating pain, and you're just like, this is the dumbest thing. Why? I'm not going to gain
I
anything from
know.
this.
So it's crazy. I mean, looking back now, hindsight's 2020, but like if I had decided, okay, let's pull the plug after the bike, after I crashed on the bike and just pedal it in easy for the lap, DNF, which most people did who crashed, a lot of people did who crashed, then you recover better, you just have a better opportunity for the rest of the season. But like then I would never be able to accept that, because after the race I'm like, well, what if my body came around? What if I got in a group, biked okay, and then I ran decent and still got decent points, and then I could have had a chance in the series? Like I might as well just fucking try. So I had to.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
so glad
agree.
I did. But it sucked. Like it was the second hardest, probably the second hardest day of my life. Honestly, like it felt horrible the whole time, and I just did not want to do it. And like, just think of feeling horrible for 3 hours on the bike and knowing you still then have to run a marathon. Like a lot of people who've done fulls have done this, and like when you're not having your day, a marathon is just so daunting. It's just,
Yeah,
oh god. And
but
obviously it
I
was worse at Nice, and so I knew I'd been through worse, and I could just you know get through it, and then I'd be glad I did. And now I can literally barely walk, and so yeah, I'm lying down a lot.
I it's one of the few times we can relate to what these stories you have, when it's with the feeling and having a not a very good Ironman. Like I've had tons of shitty races, like not crash induced, but I feel you, man. And it takes a lot of heart to keep going and to finish a race with your head kind of low, and then just whittle your way back to the hotel room. You're not hungry because you're just fucked beyond all recognition, and then you are hungry, but you can't move to eat, and you don't want to do it. Like I get it,
Yeah.
man. But hats off for everything you put yourself through, and showed a lot of determination. Most guys did pull out, and I think. I mean, I don't know what the standings look like right now, but it looks like you're based off of even what in our RTS Pro Chat. I mean, from what Adam put together, you still probably have a decent standing right now in the overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to last with all the guys now that have two good Ironmans and are going to Kona and putting together a good day. But
You're going to Kona, man, and I'm going to be there to make sure you have a good day.
that's great, and I think I still can do that. I just like I have a 2,000 point Ironman, so there's a ton of dudes who have two 4,500-ish point Ironmans, and they're getting their 70.3s in, and then yeah, like it's just there's no way. There's there's a far outside chance I could come like 9th or 10th if a lot of the guys with two good Ironmans have a real bad day or don't finish in Kona. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not, it's just not likely that I'll be top 10 in the series, even with a good day in Kona.
I
Uh,
honestly, I think you will, and I think because there's so many unknowns that come in and out of Kona, and at the end of the season, where we see guys falling apart. Like look at this race in particular, with the amount of buzz and championship level athletes in this start field, and look at the podium. Look at how in the top 10, nobody could we could not have predicted the outcome of this event to have unfolded this way. Blumenfelt, like obviously, what the hell, like just such a determined bastard. And fucking Kieran race. I met him for the first time in Slovakia, and such a nice, cool, calm dude. Never has done an Ironman this year. Like all of a sudden has a race of his life, and you just can't predict anything. So that just means the same thing. Like it's all there for you, and it's just a matter of how the cards lay. And we can't predict a damn thing except for how you show up, and that's going to be to the best of your fitness capacity.
yeah, I mean, I think I can have a good day. There's just so many guys who are going to end up with 5 races and have two fulls worth like way more points than any of the ones I have. And they're going to have two decent halves, but we'll see. I mean, I can't control it. I just have my best day I can in Kona. And
And then
go
there's
from
next
there.
year, man. I mean, there's next year. This is all a test just to figure out how many Ironmans you can throw on your plate, and survive. And
Yeah, I will say, like, doing the way I did it is tough. Like, I would never have come to this race. If I had planned from the beginning to do the Ironman series, I would have done Texas and Lake Placid, or Texas and Cairns.
Australia, yeah.
So yeah, it's you come to European Championship, it's going to be really damn hard to finish within a decent time of the leader. But to be honest, I think I still would have, had I just kept it upright, I would have had a solid day, and then everything would have been great. So,
Well, let's talk
it
about
was
a
there.
couple positives. How was the bike? It sounds like it was really going well for you, like until you crashed.
I think the bike itself was unreal. Like, you can respond, you can definitely pick your speed up so much more quickly and respond and accelerate better. But I think the top, like, once you are locked into your position, you're also just moving faster. Like I said, once I got the head down and just pedaled, at a solid power, I was just so much faster than the dudes around. And I know there's a lot of strong riders there, and I know I was going out pretty hard, but I made up. Like, if you look at the splits at 57K, the front of the group that I was at 2K before was like 4 minutes 55 behind the leader. And I was at the front pushing it. Like, I would have gotten probably 445, 450 behind the leader at 57K, which is what I was out of the water. So I was riding great. And, obviously there are a lot of things could have gone differently, but like, apparently that group I was in didn't end up really working well together. Nobody really wanted to push it. So maybe I would have gotten away. Maybe I would have had a few guys that, if I was pushing it like the majority, they would have chipped in and we would have just kept good momentum. So like, physically I was riding well. Like, after the crash, nothing went well, but like, I'm pretty confident I would have had a good day had I not crashed. So, I did what I could to prepare. I guess next time I'll roll even slower on the turns and maybe even drop the PSI even lower. I was like 60 PSI. Maybe I need to do 50 if it's freaking raining. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's hard to hold on a second. You got a cool situation. Let me show you this thing. That'll make you feel good. Look at this.
Why do you? That's not your dog, is
Look
it?
at the puppy. Look at her. Her name's Bebe. No, it's not. It's not ours. Look at her.
Her name's what?
Bebe.
Baby.
Like,
That's
I don't
awesome.
know why, but it's Bebe.
Cute.
Oh, from South Park. It's the girl. Bebe.
There you go.
Um,
But yeah, that's the positive. That yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is.
well, when are you
You do
flying out?
Tuesday, I go to England, wind tunnel at Silverstone. Hopefully I can still ride for that. Like, right now, there's no way I could pedal properly today, tomorrow, probably not Tuesday, but Wednesday is the day for the testing. So maybe I'll come around and be able to actually get some value out of it.
Do you test? I mean, do you have to put out actual power, or is it like just you can do 200 watts and?
Well, you're supposed to, but yeah, if I can pedal normally at 200 watts, but not 300 watts, then we'll just do that, because I know, yeah, I mean, pedaling at 200 watts when I'm physically damaged probably is similar to 300 watts when I'm not. So it's not going to change the aerodynamics that much. If it's a difference between being able to do the test or not, then we'll do it. I got to get that bottle mount bracket replaced, but they usually have it on Amazon, so I should be able to get that. I can borrow some bottle cages. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, the
we'll
wind
make
tunnel
it.
will have some opportunities for you to use some stuff of theirs too, to maybe even come up with some new stuff.
Yeah, we'll get it sorted out. Get some good value, even with, I think the bottles was the main thing I wanted to test, so I know what's my best 70.3 setup, what's my best full setup. But also testing a bunch of other little things, if I can find a better helmet. Slightly different changes with a couple things in the front end, like putting the reach booster on there and shoving the seat forward and seeing if more of like a forward position like what those Wove saddle guys all do, because I've got a lot of room to move forward with the new Ventum. The seat post is like you have like a ton of travel that you can go forward and back. So I'll try some of that stuff. Maybe try like the race number belt holder thing and see if that's actually better for me or not.
Is that like that little bag or the insulated thing that goes in
Yeah,
the back of your kit?
yeah. No, it's not. It doesn't go in the kit. It just like holds. It's just like a race number belt that, first off, is just like a circle. It's just like an elastic waistband. It's not adjustable. You just order the right size, and then it holds the number more firmly, so it's not like flapping, and it's kind of like more against your body. So I think it's a little bit better for sure. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff. I kind of forget what we planned out, but there's a fair bit of stuff we can do, so that's cool. Different rear bottle positions as well. So yeah, we'll try to get something useful out of this year trip and put it
Did,
to work in the next races.
when you were looking at other bikes in transition, did you notice anything that's coming out or anything new that you hadn't seen out there yet?
Not really. Everybody's got that rear wing for their rear bottle. Most people have one bottle rear facing. Saw some guys with two. Those are the main things that everybody kind of does. So yeah,
Oh,
we'll see if they can come up. Maybe there's some stuff that the guys I'm working with. Oh God, I'm blanking on the name of the Venturi Dynamics, I think it's called. A friend of mine, Tom Epton, and his buddy have a like aerodynamic testing company. They run it out of Silverstone, so they'll have a good protocol, and we'll try to rip through as many tests as we can. We got 4 hours, all on my own dime, just freaking paying for it. No big deal.
gnarly.
So just take that hit, see if it pays off.
Wow. Well, it seems like even with Mark having gone there earlier this year, there's always a lot of knowledge because you're kind of paying for their experience also, and that's really, I think, the best part is they're seeing all the best of the best come through, and they can kind of use that secrecy with numbers to kind of give you some at least partial or biased
Yeah,
opinions. So I think that's the best part that you're going to get out of it.
for sure. Yeah. So it's just nice to know all the different yaw angles and stuff too. Like for Kona type crosswinds, what's best? Like maybe all those bottles isn't good in crosswinds, but it's good in low winds, so you don't use it as much in Kona, but use it when it's calm.
Yeah.
So there's always lots of things you can figure out. But and little things with like how much what to do for shoe covers, maybe wear like aero socks on the bike. Does that help? Because if you it'd be nice to not have blistered freaking feet. So maybe figure out what the best setup for socks is, or even if those aero socks are like similar, like no less aero than no socks, might be worth it to just have a better foot situation for the run.
I think the
So
Aero Socks thing is definitely worth looking into because that's a common thing where we even see guys pick them on and off or whatever, or wear calf sleeves versus or
I'll
take
try the
30
calf sleeves as
seconds.
well.
Yeah.
So those are pretty personal, whether they work for you or not. So definitely worth trying. But yeah, we'll get some value out of it. And then yeah, I gotta take like 5 days off, man. Like I'm just beat up, need a rest, need some mental break, and then see how the body comes out of the crash, and you know, try to get into it to where I can put together some good training and go to Michigan, I think, just to have a simple race close to my house. Won it last year, good course for me. Get a real test of the new bike, and I used that as like a bounce back race last year after a bad day in Finland. So it's a good low risk opportunity for me to jump into that one and kind of just use it on my build up to Kona, where I'm going to need some recovery weeks anyway. So I might as well build one into a little race.
And
And
you'll have all of us there.
well, yeah, I mean, gotta represent with the homies, as long as the body can come around within the next 10 days to be able to actually put down some real training.
Man.
I'll do it. And if it's just too beat up and I need like more time, I won't probably go, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Can you still hear me or am I frozen?
I can hear you, but yeah, you've got this nice little frozen. Looks like you're sleeping.
Reset.
There you go. Yeah, I was when I heard you probably weren't going to do Michigan. I was like, well, for Kona prep, that probably makes more sense to not do it, since I
What?
bet you're going
Who
to.
said I probably wasn't? I never said I probably wasn't. I said I was like
Well, I
not
thought.
totally sure.
Well, yeah, I think when we were talking about lodging, it was unsure if you were going to stay with us because of if you were coming or not. And I was like, well, I would. I mean, personally, if it were me, knowing how you just did Placid and then had to go straight into this, and this was even harder on the body, you might need 3 weeks to just finally start to get back to form. And then,
I might, yeah. For
so
sure.
that's
That's
what.
why I'm just keeping it open ended right now. And if I had like, let's say I hit a home run today and I had come like fifth or whatever, I probably would have been like, all right, I'm not coming to I'm not coming to Michigan because I can afford to take more rest and really just focus it 100% on Kona. But a lot of this sport is mental, man. And if you take a bit of a hit on your confidence, it it really is tough. Like I know I can still go have a good day in Kona, but it just takes so much pressure off to get back to, go to a race. I know, have a good day. Just, I've done it a million freaking times in 70.3s where I know the course. It's a rolling course. It suits me well. I know I'm going to go there and have a good day. And it's just going to be like, all right, sweet. A good prep for Kona. Like maybe I won't have like my best day of the year because I will be a little bit just a little bit unfit and not totally back yet. But I know I can go and put together a good day. So I might as well do it and make a few bucks and have a good solid chance at a podium. And it just makes sense to me. So as long as the body's cooperating, I'll do it. But it'd be fun I'll probably roll in on like the Friday and just keep it low key.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Day before or a day and a half before is usually a great way if you can drive in.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah. But anyway, I know it sucks. Like it really sucks when you put a huge risk into doing a series and then it, kind of fucking goes sideways. But you got to bet on yourself and you can't. I just don't want to do this career and have any regrets, and not taking risks would be a regret. So I do the best I can. And I know people freaking go through worse shit than this. Like Garrick's had 2 hip freaking surgeries. Lisa's had 1,000 surgeries. Nicole couldn't race forever this year with this crazy weird infection injury from a crazy incident with a freaking stingray or whatever. And like you've gone through your lows and you're like, it could be a lot harder than what it is. And like, I'm super lucky that I've been able to get this career to where I can make a living off of racing. And a lot of people go through freaking hard times and have brutal, mental battles, and they're not even making a living off racing. They're just doing it because they like it and like they still persevere. So it's like, you know, it's I'm pretty lucky. Everyone goes through this shit, and I'll just one day, and I know, maybe one day really affects the year end rankings, but it is what it is, and I learn a lot, and then I come out stronger, get a good day in Kona, hopefully, and a good day at 70.3 Worlds, and then it's been a great year. So
I think
that's
no matter
the
what,
focus.
that perspective is what matters most. And there's going to be guys who are had a good day today who might pay the price for the next 2 races because they either didn't recover well or they sent it too hard. I mean, look at anyone who's really crushed it at Roth. They really have a hard time coming back and doing well for months and months. And all these guys who dug so deep and had the opportunity to push themselves that hard, they may be in a big deficit. So I think that this is just par for the course. It's lessons learned. It's good fitness no matter what. And you're still over there to get wind tunnel testing. There's a lot of silver lining, and Michigan is right around the corner. And then you
Get
still
it?
have
Silver lining, silver lining.
yeah, exactly. And you still have 2 championship races ahead of you. Like that is incredible that you're even going to be able to participate in those. So a lot of great things still ahead.
Yeah, I gotta, think about the opportunities I still have. So I'm stoked. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna just anytime I have the opportunity to do a full bike leg on that bike, I think it's gonna be a different beast. Like I'm just gonna be another level. Part of it's probably mental and the placebo, but I think a little differences in the bikes, like 5-10 watts, savings 15. That's huge differences in how the race plays out for you. So
It is. I
uh,
agree.
it's just, yeah, I think that was awesome. As hopefully I didn't damage it. I haven't gotten back for to the bike yet with the crash. Hopefully I didn't actually crack anything or break anything. I think the head handlebars just turned on it, and it's just going to need to be re-straightened out, and it'll be fine. So
Yeah. It sounds
yeah,
like your body probably took most of the impact.
it did for sure. And it was like hit hard, but then slide. So the road rash wasn't that bad. Like I got 3 spots where they taped her up and stuff, um, but yeah, it's it's not even freaking close to the worst crash I've had. By the way, remember that time that somebody like death gripped a gel and you went down in Chattanooga? Somebody did that with a water bottle on the bike today, and it like freaking sent me for like it swerved me like way offline and I almost went down. I'm like, why is this girl freaking holding on to this water bottle like she never wants to let it go?
It happens randomly, man. I'm telling you. Some volunteers are just trying real hard and they don't realize they don't have to try that hard.
Yeah, it is pretty well. You know what? Only went down once. Could have been worse. Lots of people went down. And a lot of people went down, just popped back up, and they were fine. And like this just hit my hip and like hard and ankle, and I was like, God dang it! If this could have just been a quick little blip, that would have been so nice. But
Well, you
Florian
do
Anger
have.
went down and couldn't race, and his brake
Oh
got
shit.
messed up. So
Trevor pulled the plug. A lot of
is
boys.
he just where was he? Was he swimming with Sam or behind Sam?
He didn't say where he was on the swim, and I hit the finish out of that, but he said he mustered through I think 80 or something miles of the bike and just was flatter than a pancake.
Well, I think there was a good chance of that with his aggressive schedule, and that's too bad. I really wanted to see him like crush this series. Um,
Well, man, the
Honestly, even if he
European
can still
racing.
get 5 races, like even if he can still, because he did Chattanooga, did he do another 70.3 yet?
I think he did Boulder, right?
Right, he won Boulder, so he's got 2 good ones. He's got a 5,000 for a full. If he does well in
Awesome.
Kona and 70.3 Worlds, he's in a better spot than I am. Like he's got more point, like better spot than a lot of guys who have 3 fulls.
But Kona
Um,
you can never predict anything at Kona at all.
well, this is the thing: is a bunch of dudes, like half the dudes are gonna have a decent day, half the dudes aren't, or even like a third will. So, out of the third who will, a lot of them are gonna already have a couple solid fulls, but maybe not. Like maybe even though this day for me sucked for performance, it definitely energy expenditure wise made it way less because I just couldn't push my body in terms of uh glycogen depletion or like going into the well effort wise. It
Yeah,
was freaking
hormonally.
painful. Hormonally I should recover better, so maybe it'll help me in my 2 good days will be Placid and Kona, and then that might kind of play off. But hey, you know what, I got to talk about this. Bradley Weiss, he's in the T100 series, getting his like he's a contracted athlete. He's tried to like really have good days there, but just hasn't put together a good day in a T100. And he thinks it's mostly the distance that just doesn't suit him nearly as well as the full distance. So he's fulfilling that. He's going to do his 6 races, and he had a good full in Vittoria, really good. He was fourth. He had a solid day here, over 4,000 points. He's going to ZLMC 70.3 next weekend. And then if he has a good day or decent day in Kona and he has another 70.3 that he already did well, and like he's gonna actually maybe be one of the very few who gets a PTO check and does well in the Ironman series top 10 or maybe even top 5, because 2 fulls over 4,000 is really good.
No,
So
he's always been there, man. Like you'll talk about all the top guys all the time, but then you'll see Bradley Weiss like still there in the mix, doing his thing. He's got great support, great sponsors. He's a competitor. He's got a great head on his shoulders. I respect the hell out of that guy. I've always liked him. So seeing him do well at both series would be awesome.
He's great. He's a great athlete. His full distance, he's freaking money. He just hasn't had a good day at the T100, and maybe he will. But even if he doesn't, he's still getting the contract, which helps him out to like take the pressure off. And that's kind of what I said about the series being like a big risk. Well, for him, it's not really, because he's got his contract with PTO. He's getting paid, and then having that like low pressure, it's like, oh, it's like bonus. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it can help, I think. And um, maybe he does end up fifth or so in the series, and that'd be pretty stellar. So good on him. He freaking had a smart race, stayed in that group. Like he tried to work, and guys were just not working. And I think he would have liked to have less sit on the bike, but then he runs well and comes 11th and still gets a decent day. So
How
good
about
for him.
Curry? Curry seems to be having a tough year.
Yeah, like did he run? Did he
Yeah, I
finish?
think. Yeah, I had him finished. He was, I think, in the 30s or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's still got two way better fulls than I do. So like there's a lot of guys like that are probably gonna just get more than me because of the fulls that they do better. But
Well, I mean, that's
yeah,
the first year of the Pro Series, man. Like, you still got a lot of strategizing. Like, I can't wait to see what happens next year with planning, and like this is
well,
going
we'll
to
see,
be.
because if it's only top 10, I think they've already kind of said they're gonna increase, or like at least talked about increasing the depth of where they pay pretty good, because 11th getting the same as 50th is crazy. Like so many guys commit a lot to this, and even like me, like if they just came out next year and they're like, oh yeah, it's the same prize money distribution and the same series payout distribution, I honestly probably wouldn't do it, because it's just so risky. Like you don't get top 10, you lose a shitload of money, and you've only got a few years in this sport to really make
Mhm.
your cash and freaking savings and build your career and get out and move on to something else or coaching or whatever. And like it'll be interesting to see, and I'll probably do some analysis and talk about it of, oh, this is how much I made this year. This is an estimate of where I probably would have been if I didn't focus on the series. And I guarantee like it's going to be a lot more if I didn't. And so it's tough to like, you know, it's it's like high risk, high reward, right? So
Well,
um
well, that's why we have to lean into partnerships and opportunities to use the caliber of athletes who are participating in the Pro Series for companies to get behind them a little bit more and show some support for those who are sending it. Like, that's part of my job too, is to see if we can make sure that our partners are taking good care of the people who are trying to represent them on the biggest stage.
absolutely. It's that's yeah, that's really what would be great, is if the series, I think this year being the first year, sponsors were kind of like, let's see what happens. And next year, over the next couple of years, I think they're gonna realize, you know what, being in this series is just way different. Like I think there should be bonuses. Like there's an opportunity for some sponsors where it's, oh yeah, we're gonna pay you a bonus if you're in the position if you get into this position in the series at any given time, because you're getting huge amounts of exposure through that. Like if you're
Yeah.
top 5 in the series for 3-4 months, that's massive exposure for the sponsors. And obviously the ranking at the end of the year is even more important, but it's not that much different if you're fifth at the end of the year than if you're fifth all year long.
Well, but every race you'll be talked about because of the rankings. Like, every Pro Series race you watch, they go through who's where, and they show live like finishing predictions based off of who's where. Like, it's getting pretty cool to see a lot of names that we don't see. I mean, we didn't see a lot of athletes today on camera aside from Bloomy for a while, but Kieran was on there for a little bit. But it's always getting better, man. And in the influx of this sport, I feel like the next 5-6 years are going to be some of the critical years for this development, and opportunities are going to get deeper.
Oh yeah, I think so. And hopefully the T100 can hang around, but if that kind of vanishes, the Ironman series is going to be freaking bananas competitive, and that's going to be super exciting. But at the same time, if it's still kind of just 10 deep that get the good payout, it's going to be freaking hard, man. Imagine that whole T100 series doesn't exist and all those guys are focused on Ironman series. That would be crazy.
I think that T100 will stick around at least 2 or 3 more years, but I think they'll get some success. And I think what it's going to do is if you watch the T100 series guys racing, it forces you to be very specific at that distance. Not like you said, not many guys at T100 long term are showing that level of prowess at full distance or half distance racing, even just because the schedule, the full on nature of the T100 series, it's like a mid or a short course race in itself at 100K. Like, so I think you've got to be a 100K specialist, or you've got to go longer and be a specialist there.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said, Brad Weiss is doing well in the Ironman series, but he's not really doing well at the T100 races. And to his own admission, he's like, I've tried. That distance just isn't my best, and he may still put together some good days. But that's where you saw Patrick Lange and a few others decline a spot, or mostly just Patrick, but where they knew I'm better at the full. I could take my contract, but I'm not going to feature in the series. So, interesting how that's been playing out, but
yeah,
for sure, I hope they stick around, and that series is exciting too. So, I think people are appreciating it.
Well, but I
hope
you feel better about getting all this off your chest. And the podcast is a great therapy session, and you can get some food and
I feel fine about it. Like, you can still be disappointed, but not, and still
hopeful.
Accept it. Like, you accept that you took a risk, didn't pay off probably, and you still have other opportunities to learn. And it got a Kona. Like, it got me the opportunity to go to Kona to try this series. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, man, you get to go do a lot of fun stuff. I can't wait for Kona. Everything's gonna be fun. Can't wait for Michigan too. That'll be awesome.
Michigan. All right, brother. Thanks for taking the time, and go get your training done and enjoy your Sunday.
All right, buddy. Rest up. Talk soon. Peace.
Peace out.